Did you hear that? That, my friends, is the sound of life. Actually, it's just the Snapchat sound, but I thought it would be a pretty cool way to start the video. Everywhere you go today, social media is there with you, like a clingy friend or a mosquito. There's no escaping it. You can try, but you'll be surprised how many simple tasks become not quite as simple without the help of YouTube or Facebook. But it's more than just that. Social media has had a profound impact on the way we live and the way we communicate with other people.
But what is it actually?
First, I thought it was a really good way of people staying connected.
A form of communication without the human interaction.
My feelings over the last few years have changed.
Snapchat,
Facebook,
Twitter,
YouTube,
Facebook, Messenger,
there used to be MySpace.
Instagram,
There's also an educational Facebook.
all things like that.
In her PhD thesis, Dawn Beverly Brownlee defines social media as a medium for sharing video content and photographs. However, she also pointed out the difference between social media and social networks. Whilst social media's job is to share content, like I said before, a social network's primary function is, well, networking. This is all very confusing for you probably, and there are so many different forms of social media. But don't cry yet, I'm here to help.
I think it's time.
It all started in 1985 with AOL Instant Messenger.
Hey, listen, I can't go to the game today. What? I've got to send something for my mom's birthday. It's tomorrow. I'll then book plane tickets for our trip next week, and my kids got to go to the library to look up dinosaurs.
Hey, we can take care of all that before we go.
Using AIM, you could message your friends over the internet and see their response in real time. This sounds pretty standard now, but it was revolutionary at the time. Then in 2003, MySpace was born. A pre-runner to Facebook, MySpace let you make a profile and post content to the site. It was going quite well, but then in 2005, something happened that would forever shift the building blocks of the World Wide Web.
Alright, so here we are in front of the elephants. Cool thing about these guys is that they have really long fronts.
That was the first ever YouTube video posted by one of its creators, and it set off a chain of events that would continue to unfold to this very day.
Jake Paul's my dad.
Then came Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, Snapchat, Vine, Periscope, and Beam.
The beta version, it just didn't deliver enough on the promises that we made.
Well, maybe not Beam. Then Twitter bought Periscope and incorporated it into its own service. Facebook tried to buy Snapchat, but they said no, so they just bought Instagram. But then, something terrible happened.
Alright, let's switch over to social media. It's the last day to save your Vines. Twitter is shutting the 6-second video service today.
Yep, Vine died. And that's pretty much where we're at today. Now, I could have done this documentary on anyone. I mean, pretty much everyone uses some form of social media. So, why young people? Well, there's a large amount of evidence to suggest that the mental health of young people is worsening, more so than older generations. In fact, mentalhealth.org.uk suggests that 20% of adolescents may experience a mental health problem any given year. What's worse is that nearly 20% of people aged 16 and over showed symptoms of anxiety or depression in 2014. That's up 15% from the year before. That means it's got worse. And since things like Facebook and Snapchat are much more prominent in the younger generations, could social media have anything to do with this?
So, could you say what you think social media is, and could you name as many types as well? Do you think social media is a problem in schools, particularly? Like more so than other places?
Students have a really hard time letting go of their phones in general. And I don't know particularly whether it's the fact that they have to be constantly checking or updating social media accounts, or if they just can't let go of their phones in general. I don't think they realize that everyone can see everything that they post.
You can see from the interview that social media plays a particularly important role in the lives of young people. It's also clear that it's not all likes and smiles when it comes to social. It causes problems with young people. We've already established that social media can cause arguments in schools, but to what extent can they affect relationships? Well, there's no better person to ask than a person of the younger generation, which has grown up submersed in this tech and culture. Woohoo!
So thanks for joining me today.
That's quite all right.
It's not like we go to college here or anything. So,
No.
So how do you think social media has changed relationships?
Social media, I think, is destroying the very human interaction that relationships are built upon. Without this human interaction, we as people can't understand each other.
So has social media made dating harder or easier?
Well, as I said, without that human interaction, we lack the understanding with all the pictures that are photoshopped, that you see all the time on Instagram. Those aren't real life. And if you're in love with something that's up there, that isn't real life.
You would say then that overall social media has changed relationships for the worse?
Oh, massively. Definitely, yes.
Well, if there's one thing we've learned today, it's that social media can definitely affect relationships. But is it really a root cause for unhappiness? Simon Sinek said in an interview that social media was one of the key reasons young people were unhappy and, ironically, less connected with the rest of the world. Here are some of the reasons he gave.
Engagement with social media and our cell phones releases a chemical called dopamine. It's why we count the likes, it's why we go back 10 times. You want to go on a date, you don't even have to learn how to be like, hey. Swipe right, bang, I'm a stud.
However, I have to be fair, and it wasn't just social media he said was a cause for this different behaviour. He also mentioned things like a worse working environment because of a harder work ethic and things like 0-hour contracts.
And they're thrust into the real world, and in an instant they find out they're not special, their mums can't get them a promotion, that you get nothing for coming in last.
So it wasn't just social media, but it's still there. We've already looked into the reasons social media makes you unhappy a little, but now we'll look at it a bit deeper. Many people believe that because social media sets unrealistic goals for the people using it, this can lead to anxiety and depression, and just general unhappiness. and that's not good. What's good is being happy all the time. Let me introduce figure B. Say someone posts a picture on social media. It's got to be a good one, really. People don't want other people to think they're a loser on social media, even though when you think about it, we're all losers, really. So someone puts a picture on, you want to try and imitate it because social media is often a competition. You post a picture or video of something which should impress people, but it's not real. It's manufactured. Someone else sees this, becomes jealous, tries to copy it, and the cycle repeats itself. Mind blown, right? Probably not. That might be what I think, but what does this professional marketing person think about it all?
That's a good start. I think it's becoming more and more important. I see sort of more and more communication happening through social media.
We just talked about this a little bit, but do you think the way you look on social media can have implications not just on like your peer group or your friendship group, but on the wider world as well?
Yeah, no, I think absolutely. So from something as simple as even applying for jobs. So I know a lot of companies now will look at applicants' social media profiles to understand a little bit more. When you're applying for a job, you can answer the questions based on what you think the company wants to hear, but those people then can go and look at your social media profile to really understand more about you as a real person. I think the implications are definitely wider.
It is important.
So far, I feel like I've made it look like it's just people to blame for other people being unhappy. But the good news is, it's not just people.
What if companies had knowingly exploited and manipulated users' emotions by displaying only negative or positive posts and seeing how they reacted? Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious, and don't call me Shirley.
This is the Facebook newsfeed experiment scandal. A couple of years ago, it was revealed that back in 2014, Facebook started experimenting on users' news feeds. This means that some people would only see sad or depressing posts one day, and for others, it would only be happy posts. Alright for the happy post, people. If you felt sad or depressed in 2014, it probably was nothing to do with you. The worst thing, though, is that they could still be doing it now. Companies can't be trusted. We're in a bit of a pickle, aren't we? So what can we do?
We used to have Staying Safe Online, kind of a small curriculum that you would present to students. Some kind of curriculum for Staying Safe Online needs to be rolled out.
Well, that was pretty clear. More education. Teach kids about social media and how to use it properly. In my opinion, this should be as important as sex education in schools. There's been no attempt in the last decade to change the curriculum to keep up with our times, so I propose digital studies class. It can replace tutor. But that's not the only solution. There is another way. Censorship. Now look, I know what you're thinking. I don't actually support this, but this is actually something that the government are doing right now.
Right now, the government are putting new laws in place that they hope will target extremism. The only problem is, at the same time, they're also tackling something else, our human rights.
This isn't my opinion. The government actually said this.
If our human rights laws stop us from doing it, we'll change the laws so we can do it.
This means that we'll have less freedom online, but it will also be a safer place, in theory. A couple of months ago, Britain created a legal liability, which promised to fine companies who didn't take down content which was deemed extreme. I wouldn't mind, but they haven't even tried the whole education thing. I'm not telling you there's a right way, but there's a way which limits our human rights, and another way which hasn't even been tried. In summary, yes, social media harms us to a moderate extent, but there are things we can do about it, namely censorship or education.
How many things should I
Just
say?
some things.
Some things?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll tell you about capitalism.